What to do, YouTube? We're getting ready to rock and roll, so sit tight.
And here we go.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is
Not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Did you think no one was watching?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
your mission.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
To reclaim the American dream,
To be given the right of human beings to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities. By any means necessary.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
You've certainly come to the right place.
Yes, you have. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Friday, July 31st. It is the last day. It is the last day of July, man. This year is going by so quickly, which means winter is right around the corner. Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. I have got a lot to cover today, so I'm just going to jump right into it. On Wednesday, the indictment came down for Raymond Tensing, Officer Raymond Tensing of the University of Cincinnati Police. He has been charged with murder, and he has been charged with all of the lesser included charges, including manslaughter and negligent homicide and all the possible charges that he could face in the upcoming trial. He was given $1 million bond, and he has since bonded out with 10% of that. So somehow, some way, he came up with $100,000 to get himself out of jail. And so he's out of jail pending trial. And so what I want to do this morning is I'm going to play the video from the killing of Samuel Dubose. And I want to talk about a couple of things, including the number of people who can watch this video and actually go against even what the prosecuting attorney, what the DA said. The DA said that this was, I mean, he used some colorful language, and so that there was no uncertain terms. He stated that this was asinine, that this was a chicken crap stop, that this Raymond Tensing should never have been on the force, should never have been a police officer. And he said that this was an intentional murder. And he really took it to him. But what's amazing to me is that some people are completely incapable of looking at this video and seeing that this officer shot this man for no reason at all, no necessary reason at all. He could have done any number of things, including utilize the resources of all the officers that were there. He could have put out his taser. He could have done so many other things, but most importantly, like District Attorney Joseph Dieter said, this was completely unnecessary in the first place. One, this guy was out of his jurisdiction. He's a University of Cincinnati police officer. He shouldn't be patrolling the city of Cincinnati. But then two, he's just completely out of his league, should never have been a police officer. And you can listen. You listen to the exchange and you see the power trip that I always talk about. I always focus on the mentality of these police officers because that is how these incidents always begin. They begin with officers who can't handle the slightest bit of irritation. They can't handle the slightest bit of retort, someone not acquiescing to their demands. They can't handle being challenged whatsoever. And they are absolutely in the wrong profession, because if you can't handle being challenged as a police officer, then you sure as hell can't handle the responsibilities and duties of carrying a gun and a badge. So I'm going to play this video for you guys here on YouTube. And for those listening over the radio, you can hear the conversation and you can see how quickly it escalates. And that's the thing. it escalates from Samuel Dubose cutting on his car because Sam, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Sam basically said, you don't have any reason to stop me. You don't have any reason to tell me to get out of my car, rather. And I'm going to close my door. Don't open my door. So he closes the door back and then he turns on his ignition. Now, I'm going to talk about a couple of people who did some commentary on this. And they're, well, you know what? Let me stop talking. Let me just play this, and then we'll discuss what happens right after this. So this is the shooting, and it's really brief, and you have to watch really closely, and you have to listen really closely. Here we go.
That's all I did. I understand. What did you pull me over for?
Again, the front tag.
But it's not illegal to have a front tag.
Okay. Actually, it is. I'm going to ask you again. You have a license on you.
I have a license. You can run my name.
Okay. Is that not on you then?
I don't think I have it on me.
Be straight up with me. Are you suspended?
Yeah, I'm not suspended.
Okay, let me stop it for a second because the video itself is not playing, and we have the audio playing, but the video doesn't seem to be coming through over YouTube. So I'm going to try it one more time, and because it's important that you can actually see it, let's try this one over here. Let's see if this works. Here we go. This is Officer Tensing and Sam Dubose.
Why don't you have your license on you?
I just don't. I'm sorry. I'm just going to go in the house.
Okay. Where do you stay at? Down here?
Right around the corner.
Okay. Well, until I can figure out if you have a license or not, go ahead and take your seatbelt off for me.
I ain't even do nothing.
Go ahead and take your seatbelt off. Stop!
Just that quick. Just that quick. That's how quickly it went from a regular traffic stop to the murder of Sam Dubose. Now, I was listening to some commentary last night from some YouTubers, which I like to do every now and then. I like to go and get the hear what other people are saying. And there's a guy named Matt Mundane or Mundane Matt or something like that. And he did everything he could to cast this in the light of the officer was not wrong because of the fact that Sam started his car. Well, there's nothing illegal about starting your car. There's nothing illegal about talking back to a police officer. There's nothing illegal about saying, listen, you didn't do anything. I didn't do anything wrong unless you're placing me under arrest, which the officer did not declare. The officer did not declare that I'm putting you under arrest, Sam. All he said, well, until then, you know, take off your seatbelt, and he started to open the door. No, make your intentions clear. Say, I'm going to detain you or I'm going to place you under arrest. And so because he didn't say that, then there was nothing wrong. There's nothing illegal with him closing his door back. The officer did not make any type of declaration. Now, one commentary is trying to pinch this on the fact that that he was accelerating, that Sam was pressing the gas and he was driving off and he drugged the officer. The reason he accelerated, if you watch the video and you actually pay attention and you look at it with objective eyes through an objective lens, the reason he accelerated was because he was dead. He had gotten shot in the head, and then I guess either his foot, the weight of his foot pressed down out of reaction to being shot, or the weight of his body fell forward. But you can hear that he does not accelerate until after he was shot. And at that point, yes, you're going to get drugged, Officer Tensing, because your hand is in the car. You just shot a man and his body lumped over, and now he's pulling off. So it's amazing that, you know, I don't even have to relitigate this, right? There's no need for me to even litigate this again because the district attorney has said it himself. He said that it is ridiculous that this officer should never have been an officer, that this is a direct murder, that there's no way, no high, low, or in between. But you still have people who do everything and anything possible to try to justify the killing of Sam, of any black person. You know, and that's the thing that trips me up the most. You have a lot of people who are police state warriors, who run around saying that the police are abusing their power. The police are out of control. The police are dictatorial. The police are criminals, that we need to have police criminal justice reform, and we need to bring it down, and all these things. They write blogs about it. They do videos about it. They incessantly talk about how terrible the police department is, up until the point it happens to communities of color and apparently to women. Because I've seen some retorts, some commentary, some ideas, some just hate towards the arrest of Sandra Bland. And I wonder, is it because are you only able to see the abuse of power by the police when it's happening to someone who looks like you? And I dealt with this on Wednesday. Is if you can't see the abuse of power that's happening in communities of color, then you are co-signing to it happening in your community. And there's this one right-wing nut job police state warrior on YouTube. I won't even mention his name. Actually, I will mention his name, Christopher something. I don't even know his last name. But I was going to play the video of his response to the Sandra Bland case, and he outlines so many meticulous things about what that police officer could have done wrong. But he completely dismisses everything that police officer did wrong because this was a mouthy, B and all kind of expletives, right? So up until the point, this is what blows me away, is that you're able to see injustices up until the point of your own prejudice, of your own insecurities. If you don't want me to call you prejudice, right? You don't want me to say, but up until the point of your insecurities. And so there's a lot of police state warriors out there who would swear up and down that the police are out of control, but up until the point where they're being abusive towards a woman, up until the point where they're being abusive towards a person of color, because no, at that point, then the woman was just too mouthy. The woman shouldn't have talked back, right? And then if it's a black person, then of course the black person, they had to have done something wrong because of the way we view black people. Black people are just criminals. So the police are wrong in every other circumstance except for when it's a black person. And then if it's a woman, then that woman should never have talked back. She should not have been mouthy. Do you know the number of times I've heard, not just white people, I've heard black men, and I've heard a lot of white men, and I've even heard some white women who have said that that Sandra Bland shouldn't have been mouthy, shouldn't have talked back. When we see countless videos, we hear countless encounters where people not only get in the face of officers and yell and curse and scream, but they do violent things to police officers, and no one says that they are mouthy. So you guys, you tell us, under what circumstances can we talk? Can we address systemic injustices? Under what circumstances? Who has the permission? Who has the permission to confront police brutality? Is it only white men? Is it only men in general? Who has the permission to address an injustice as it's happening and not have to wait to go through a criminal court system that's already biased against you? Who can confront it right then and there? Because it becomes an excuse after an excuse after excuse. People are trying to justify it by saying, oh, you should have never talked back to the police officer. And this coming from a bunch of people who ostensibly oppose the police abuse of power that we see on a regular basis. But as soon as it happens to a woman, oh, she shouldn't have been mouthy. As soon as it happens to a black person, well, that cigarette, that cigarette she had, that could have been a weapon. That's the type of ridiculousness that we see on a regular basis. And it's not it is disgusting, but it's par for the course. It's par for the course. This is an everyday average. This is just the run of the mill activities of trying to criminalize the victim. And then on the flip side, trying to justify the police officers. But I would expect more from people who spend all of their day, every day, trying to bring down the police state, but they just can't see the police state that's glaring right in front of their eyes. And that's because, and I realize I have to realize and be honest and say that I know why. I know exactly why people cannot see injustices when the police are abusing a woman or when the police are abusing a person of color. It's because it's uncomfortable for people to address a situation that hits them right where they're insecure, that hits them exactly where they have their own type of privilege. It hits them exactly where they have their own, beyond prejudice. They have their own prejudice. If you are biased against women being bold and speaking out and challenging the system and having just as much fervor and just as much get back as you do, if you have a problem and you think women should not be mouthy and you think women should stay in their place, then of course you wouldn't see, of course you would blame the woman. You would always blame the woman in every situation because you have a bias against women. And you can listen to their language. You can listen to their rhetoric. They hate. There's so many of these people actually hate women with such a visceral force that when they normally would stand up and say, this is an atrocity. This police officer should never have reached in the car and pulled out Sandra Bland. This police officer should never have escalated the situation. Instead of saying that, what they say is, well, Sandra Bland was a mouthy bitch. That's because they're blinded by their own hatred. Keep going even further. You're blinded by your insecurity or your prejudice or the intersection of your privilege, whichever connotation, whichever one fits you best. Because if you cannot see that you have a privilege in a certain area, then you are going to always deny someone else the reality of their experience. And that sentence actually made a whole lot more sense than I think it made. It made that actually, if you cannot see your own privilege, then you will always deny someone else their experience. And that's what happens when you don't want to admit that there is systemic racism in the United States, that police officers will, and it's not just about white police officers. You have to understand, systemic racism isn't about the individual being racist. It's about a structure that views blacks in general and minorities and Hispanics in general through the eyes of criminality. So that when you stop a person and you see that they're black, your alarm automatically goes off and you assume that this person might be a criminal that I need to be cautious of. Versus saying this, let's see who this person is. You approach it already with a certain sense of animus, a certain sense of agitation, and a certain sense of precaution because of their skin color. And that happens not only with white officers, that happens with black officers. When I experienced it with a black police officer. So it's not just white people. It's not just, but it's viewing, and that is systemic racism. But if you can't bring your mouth to fix your it hurts you, it pains you. These type of people, I'm telling you, and I'm telling you because I know, right? I can speak from experience. It actually hurts physically for you to admit that someone else is experiencing something because of your privilege. It is a visceral response to say that, oh, women are being harassed on a regular basis, and you as a man recoil in fear or aggravation because no, they, y'all are just exaggerating. Stop exaggerating so much. The same exact thing happens with race. And this is why police state warriors, these libertarians, these people who see the police take over of the world, they see it and they talk about it and they preach about it, they write about it, they do videos about it. When it comes to a black person, well, then they shouldn't have, and they don't have an excuse other than, well, this is not a good example. This is not a good example of the police state. No, this is the perfect example of a police state. You just can't admit it because of your intersection of privilege. That's the nice way of saying it, but you can't admit it because of your prejudice. You can't admit it because you can never bring yourself to admit that this American system has not only capable of, but has historically targeted people of color, black and Hispanic and other, because of the fear that has been baked into this system. And because you can never admit to that, then you will never be able to admit to the police state that started in the Black community first, in the Hispanic community first. And you will never be able to, the same thing is true with men versus women. You will never be able to look at this incident with Sandra Bland and say, this was just an atrocity. This police officer was out of control. What you have to say was that she was mouthy, that she should not have talked back. So it's apparent to me that the only people that can talk back, then tell me, if women shouldn't be mouthy and Black people just shouldn't be criminal, then who has the right to talk back? Who has the right to challenge injustices that we see every single day that occur to women, that occur on women, and that occur in communities of color? Answer me that. And when we come back, I'm going to deal with Fox News and a whole bunch of lies that I caught them in. But, you know, that's every day, right? But I have to talk about this one. All right, folks, the Benjamin Dixon Show. We'll be back after this.
When you're ready to lose weight, why count, track, and worry over every meal? Jenny Craig makes it simple. Just walk into a neighborhood Jenny Craig center or give us a call. You'll meet your dedicated personal consultant who helps you reach your goals. Together, you'll pick out delicious Jenny Craig foods that you'll love and design a menu that fits your life. And the best part is that you can get started losing weight right away. Don't wait any longer to take advantage of our best offer ever. Call 1-800-JENNY20 or visit jennycraig.com.
This is the sound of salmonella gyrating on your undercooked chicken. And it looks like Mom might be taking it out a little early. Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. So use a thermometer to cook each type of meat to the right temperature. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
On the next episode of Recipes for Disaster.
I'm making beef sliders for my friend Sandy. Nana taught me to always pull meat off the grill early so it's extra juicy.
Use a food thermometer to ensure ground beef is 160 degrees, or you could make people really sick. Sandy didn't think twice about the slider she ate until yoga class, when a nasty case of food poisoning turned her downward-facing dog into upward-moving lunch. Watch Recipes for Disaster at foodsafety.gov and learn the steps Maria unwittingly leaves out. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer. Warm fleece on a cool day.
I want to be a bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
Welcome back, folks. I've got a comment here from Facebook. They said with regard to people who can see the police state, but only when it's like white men or something. Here's a comment. He said, and they assume that even without them knowing, they assumed it. Their fear alarms go off and they start to assume all sorts of bad stereotypes just because of race. And actually, I should have opened it up. Let me open it up a little bit bigger so I can read the rest of it. Just because of race. And in this case, blacks and even black people are racist in the sense because we also assume these were stereotypes. It's the same reason why we didn't realize that every black father we know is the average black father. Interesting. That's a good point. And that's what I wanted to emphasize more when I came back after the break, is that the power and people. Okay. I'm going to start here. All right. Flag on the play. I'm going to start here. We can't be afraid of saying white supremacy. And I'll tell you why in the next segment. But white supremacy is so effective that white people are not the only ones that are racist against blacks and minorities and dark people and other people and Islamic people. You have plenty of black people who are terrified of black people. You have plenty of women who think the worst of women. You have plenty of Muslims who think that Muslims are terrorists, right? It is so baked into the system. We are programmed. We are so programmed that we have to intentionally deprogram ourselves. I'm too honest. I shouldn't tell all my business. I had to intentionally deprogram myself to no longer need my wife to have processed hair and to look at her hair in the natural state of what it really is and realize, well, damn, my wife is even more beautiful with her natural hair. But my first reaction was, what the hell have you done to your hair? That's because I was programmed with years of the system telling me, of TV telling me, of beauty standards telling me that that the only type of hair that is beautiful is hair that hangs down on your shoulders. Now that's my little microcosm right there. That's my little anecdote for my personal life, but it shows you how effective this system is. And if it can affect me like that, then of course it can affect it can affect black police officers. I experienced racism and abuse of power at the hands of a black police officer who assumed the worst of me because of my skin color. So all of these people who are running around saying that we're race baiters, no, you're just intentionally obtuse. You just don't want to have the conversation. You don't ever want to admit that there is a problem, because admitting that there's a problem would force us to examine the roots of the problem. And the roots of the problem, one, is white supremacy, but underneath white supremacy, it is the economic plundering that has always been the goal of white supremacy. Racism is just a tool. White supremacy is really the construct and the framework that tool of racism operates in. But underneath all of that is green. White supremacy and racism has always been the means through which they can extract wealth, not only from communities of color, but also from poor white people. And this is what drove me crazy. It didn't drive me crazy, but the caller on Monday, who was so infuriated with the minority person in front of him in line with food stamps. He was so pissed off at her that he wanted to commit an act of violence against her. I think there's some problem, misogyny or some problems, some hatred of women there, because he was so emphatic. I just wanted to reach up there and slap her, But he's so aggravated and so irritated with this other person who is just as poor as he is, but he doesn't look at the system that is extracting wealth out of his paycheck and sending it to the top. He looks at the other poor person across the aisle and say, oh, that black woman is my problem. When in actuality, that's never been your problem, because she's getting benefits that you need, quite frankly. And that has been the effectiveness of white supremacy. It is always it's always had what my friend Kevin coined as propaganda of distraction. It has always been able to make poor white people be distracted by their hatred and make them realize or keep them from ever realizing the truth, that the real problem isn't the black person in the hood, because the real problem is more on Wall Street and in Washington. That's the real problem. And it's the same exact thing with the police state. The same reason that officer was so quick to shoot and kill Sam Dubose, the same reason that officer was so quick to pull out Sandra Bland and escalate the situation. It's the same exact situation, that people are incapable of seeing the systemic problems that led to that, when in actuality, they are the same. Well, hang on, let me fix that sentence. They're not going to experience police brutality at the same rate because it disproportionately affects the black community, but they will experience police brutality. White people are killed by the police. White people are subject to the abuses of power and the overreach of small people with big egos, just like black people, but they can't see it in the black community because they're distracted by their hatred and their prejudice, because the machine has constantly fed them the lie that the problem isn't the system. The problem is that other poor person. They have pitted poor people against poor people throughout the entire history of the world, probably, but definitely throughout the history of the United States. Because if poor people, I don't want to say this phrase, but if poor people ever united, dum dum dum. You know, if poor white people ever realize that they have the same problems, economic problems and societal problems as poor black people, then there's no way this system of economic oppression that we all live underneath could ever survive. But they can't let you see that. They can't let you see that. So they have successfully baked into the system a level of systemic racism so strong that black people, we are even the executors of that racism. We lock our doors when we drive through the hood. We tense up when we see a black guy in the hoodie, in a hoodie, if we don't know who they are. And if that affects the black community, how can you even fix your mouth to consider that these police officers are above the fray, when usually they probably had an IQ of a brick wall? And you expect these, and you give the benefit of the doubt always falls on the side of the police officer when it involves a black person and when it involves a woman, because that woman should never have been mouthy. And that black person, he shouldn't have been a criminal. And this is, if I can segue over to Fox News, because Fox News, man, Fox News is the I don't know, man. It's the henchman. It is the henchman of the power structure in America that Bill O'Reilly correctly identified. Let me see if I have that audio clip here where Bill O'Reilly. Well, yeah, there it is. This is what Bill O'Reilly said. Come on, Bill. Talk to me.
America is run by white Christian men.
So last night I was watching a clip from Fox News, and two things jumped out to me. One, the level with which they engage in lies and just don't care, right? Fox News just lies, and it's like no big deal because everybody knows they lie, right? But I caught them in a very specific lie, and man, I meant to send that tweet. I meant to get a screenshot of the tweet. So I called out the anchor, Andrea Tarantos. I don't know. Hang on, let me pull up her name. I hate to massacre her name, but she was on Bill O'Reilly on Wednesday night. And she basically just straight out slandered the founder of Black Lives Matter. And I'm going to play the clip. And so I called her out. I sent a tweet, letting her know that they need to apologize, because Andrea Tantoris, thank you. I sent the tweet because I'm like, you know what, this is a blatant lie, and I'll let you see it for yourself. And Fox News and the O'Reilly Show needs to apologize. Well, you know what happens whenever you tell the truth on somebody, they block you. So I went to bed. I sent the tweet at 12:30 this morning, and then I went to bed and woke up, and she had found time to block me, but not time to address the fact that she lies. So I just want to deal first, just another day of lying at Fox News. Let me play this clip for you guys, and I want you to listen to how she accuses Black Lives Matter. And then I want to show you what the founder, Patrisse Cullors, actually said. And it should be news, right? It should be news that Fox News lies like this, but it's just another day. Here, listen to what she says.
Founder Patrisse Cullors was asked the other day, do you plan on trying to shut down the Democratic convention? She said, no, they're on our side. And it sends a message that I think is very important, that Black lives matter, just not in democratic cities.
Okay, I got to play it again because it goes by so quickly. I just bear with me.
Founder Patrisse Cullors was asked the other day, do you plan on trying to shut down the Democratic convention? She said, no, they're on our side. And it sends a message that I think is very important, that Black lives matter, just not in democratic cities.
All right. Now, that set my alarm off because, one, it doesn't make sense, because the Black Lives Matter movement, I did an entire week on this, the Black Lives Matter movement had just shut down a Democratic, a progressive leaning event. They shut down 2 presidential candidates from the Democratic Party. So I said to myself, why would Patrisse go back and say, well, no, they're on our side? So I did what most Fox News people or Fox News listeners aren't capable of doing. And I did a quick Google search. It took literally 5 words to search this and find out what context Patrice actually said this in. And I want to share that with you. I'll read it for the audience. All right, so I actually snagged this image for those of you who are looking. I got this from hotair.com, I think is the site. You can Google it. But I want you to start looking in the first gray section. And this is Patrice Cullors stating, she said, and this was live at the event. I remember her saying this. Patrice Cullors said, "It's not like we like shutting expletive down, but we have to." And so this is now Hot Air giving their commentary. So they don't like shutting ish down unless there's no choice. Fair enough, I suppose. But that was way back in the distant past, at least a couple of weeks. Today, things are different, and the same subject came up again. Patrice was singing a bit of a different tune. Now, this is Dixon. This is me, Benjamin Dixon, giving commentary. This lie began here. And this is the art of Fox News. They will let someone lie on a blog post, and then they will cite the blog post as if it's news. But here's where the lie began. Looking at the red line, Patrice was singing a bit of a different tune. This is Patrice's actual words. And many folks have asked us, why would you go after the Democratic Party? ? They're on our side. What about the Republican Party? And trust and believe that any opportunity we have to shut down a Republican convention, we will. Okay, one of two things has happened, ladies and gentlemen. Either this website and the author of this has a reading comprehension level of a 2nd grader, or they just don't care anymore and they just will flat out lie, which I think it's the combination of the two. Same thing with Andrea Tantoris. If I said the name wrong, oh well. She took this, and no one who can read this and read it in context could come away with Patrice Cullors saying, no, we're not going to attack the Democratic Party because they're on our side. No one with a 3rd grade reading comprehension level can come away and take that out of that. She's simply saying, I have been asked, why would we do this to Democrats? Aren't they on our side? And a lot of people did ask that question. Why did they attack? Why did they protest and demonstrate at Netroots Nation when the Democrats are ostensibly on our side? That's probably a standard question that they got after they got done attacking and protesting and demonstrating against Democratic presidential candidates. That is the context. How in the world can you take from that? This is how you do it. I'm not surprised, right? But the ease with which they do it should still bother us. I know it doesn't, right? Everyone listening right now, everyone who's listening later, every one of us knows that Fox News just outright lies on a regular basis, and they just don't give a damn. They have no moral conscience. They have no qualm with distorting the truth. They have no qualm with slandering because they're flush with money. They have enough money to handle the lawsuits. But this is outright slander of not only an individual, but an entire movement. To intentionally distort and lie on someone for the purposes of defaming them. You know, but I guess they have enough money to handle the lawsuits. But what's most important, you have to understand this entire segment, which I'll deal with in segment 3. This entire segment was about labeling Black Lives Matter as a radical, militant, dangerous organization that is politically aligned with the Democratic Party because, as Patrice Cullors ostensibly said, the Democratic Party is on our side. When in actuality, she said, I've been asked, why would we do this to the Democratic Party when they're on our side? We live in an intentionally obtuse world, ladies and gentlemen. We live in a world where half of us count on the ignorance of half of us, where propaganda machines count on their people not taking enough time to go to Google to search for themselves to find out the truth. And so millions of Americans have taken what Adrian, whatever that lady's name is, I can't think of her name on the fly. They've taken her words and now they've said, oh, Black Lives Matter isn't going to attack Democrats because they're in bed with Democrats. No, Black Lives Matter went to the Democratic side first and gave them hell first. And now they're saying, not only are we going to give Democrats hell, we're going to give Republicans hell. But, maybe that's too nuanced. Maybe that's, maybe I'm not overreacting. And this is why I say all the time, on our side of the equation, if you are a progressive, if you consider yourself to be a liberal, or you consider yourself to be someone who just wants to see human progress, we cannot operate like this. We can't. We cannot operate in lies. We cannot operate in propaganda. We can't operate in half-truths. We cannot distort the truth, because two things. One, if we're going to be better than them, then we need to be better than them. If we have better ideas than them, then we cannot, and this is two, if we have better ideas than them, then we cannot stoop to their level. There's no need for us to lie. And if I see it on the left, if I see it in progressive circles, I will call it out even worse, because we lose all credibility. Why do it when the truth is on our side? Why Photoshop? And whoever did it, I don't know, but whoever Photoshopped that image of Sandra Bland's eyes to make her look like she was dead, you are just as disgusting to me. Well, yes, you are just as disgusting to me as Fox News, because we don't have to operate on that level. What DeRay McKesson said, the truth is damning enough. All we have to do is tell the truth. All I have to do is expose the lies of Fox News. All I have to do is expose the things that they do say. They say enough. They lie enough. They engage in enough systemic racism and white supremacy and misogyny and homophobia and Islam. They do enough that we never have to lie. So I think I would give our side of the equation even more hell than I give Republicans and conservatives, because that's how they operate. And on the flip side, it's not just the people who distort the truth. Here's the thing. People on our side of the equation, you must absolutely be smart enough not to run with propaganda, not to run with a half truth, not to run with a lie. And Google for yourself. Do your Googles. Question. A lot of skeptics. There are a lot of skeptics who question everything about religion, but wouldn't question something that they get from a crazy, left-wing nut job. Because we do have them. Let's not act like everybody on the left is genius and has a moral center. We have some idiots on the left who will lie just like the idiots on the right. But we have the truth on our side. And there's absolutely no reason for us to have to engage in the same tactics that they engage in, because one, we're smarter than that. Two, we're better than that. And three, all we have to do is tell the truth about them. So Fox News, they probably owe half of America an apology because of how much they lie. But I think if we become too comfortable with their lies and we stop calling out their lies, then we become an accomplice to the system that allows them to continue in this propaganda that supports and protects the system that Bill O'Reilly said is that, oh goodness, that's the wrong one. I hit the wrong button.
America is run by white Christian men.
I got to say that again because I like to flow a little bit better. If we allow them to lie, then we become accomplices in protecting the system that Bill O'Reilly said is run.
America is run by white Christian men.
There you go. That's the kind of flow I like. Folks, I'm going to take a quick break. And when I come back, I want to deal with that whole segment by Bill O'Reilly. Because, it's Friday. Why not? We'll be back.
You're tuned in to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Join the conversation. 857-600-0518.
Looking for the right business opportunity? Need the right product, the right marketing plan, and the absolute best training in the world? Well, look no further. The Elite Team. Every leader in time excels. They believe the key ingredients in becoming successful in life and in business are just a keystroke away. Go to www.eliteteamsite.com. That's www.eliteteamsite.com. The Elite Team has a system in place that will move you closer to achieving your goals and dreams. Visit www.eliteteamsite.com or TonyFlemingEnterprises.com today.
College is important, but it can also be expensive. College Planning Services is a group of educators, administrators, counselors, and other licensed professionals that work together to provide the necessary services, networks, and information to reach students that are serious about getting a college education. College Planning Services partners with financial institutions, corporate sponsors, and other major players in the global market to strategize in building a pool of information regarding financial aid, scholarships, and funding information to assist students in preparing to access the essential resources to build upon their path to an educational future. Learn more at collegeplanningtoday.com and let us help you start your college career.
Do you want to take your business to the next level? Ultimate Business Solutions provides the support you need to increase your customer base and sell more products and services online. Specializing in graphic arts, web development, and internet marketing, Ultimate Business Solutions creates the face of your business. If you're looking for a custom logo, dynamic website, or popping marketing material, call Ultimate Business Solutions today at 404-704-2197 or visit www.ultimatebizsolutions.com. Ultimate Business Solutions. Let us create your future.
Do you have tax issues, owe back taxes, or need tax relief? Contact L&B Tax Service today. L&B offers you over 15 years of expertise and first-class tax service for individuals, professionals, and business owners. With nationwide service, you can easily find a location near you. Contact one of our tax professionals through our website, lbtaxservice.com. That's www.lbtaxservice.com. L&B Tax Service Incorporated. Tax professionals that you can trust.
You've tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody asked me, where did I get that music, the one that we just came back in on? Check out Otis McDonald on Twitter. He is a beast, and I use a lot of his music in my show. And he's just like, he's my soul brother from another mother. This white dude has so much funk in him. It's just ridiculous. So I don't have a link to the actual music, but you can find him on Twitter at Otis McDonald. I want to play a little bit more of the segment by Fox News, Bill O'Reilly, and I'm setting it up because, well, two things, and I don't want to take long with this because there's one last thing I have to hit, and it's this church service that they had inside of a Walmart, which I love the Lord and all that kind of stuff, and I go to church whenever I can, but that says so much. I mean, so much about the narrative that we're living underneath right now, the power of religion to keep people from seeing the obvious oppression that they're living under. Maybe I should just go there since I set that up even better. Let me just start there. Let me get off Fox News for a minute and deal with this clip from
No one can come into the Father but by me. That's the only way you're going to get to him. That's right. You ain't going to get to him through Walmart. You ain't going to get to him through the 401k. That's right. You ain't going to get to him by being a stockholder. That's right. You're only going to get to him through Jesus. Amen. So I want to encourage you this morning as we come together as a community from all different places and all different races to honor God, to come together as one, the body of Christ, to make a difference in Columbus, Mississippi, for His honor and for His glory, till His kingdom comes. Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Pastor Ammunition. Okay. I watched this video, and folks, if you ever read my Patheos, my blog over at Patheos, you know that I'm like a unashamed. I'm a Christian. That's just who I am. That's my background. I used to pastor. I did do all kinds of things in the church. So when I watched this, I want you to understand my critique of it when I discuss it. Seeing that, instantly takes my mind back to the time in slavery when they were able to keep all of the slaves pacified by feeding them religion. Now, I'm fully aware of all of the implications of what I just said. Trust me, on so many more levels. I'm very astutely aware of it. But it's just so amazing that, and I'm not even going to talk about the intersection of church and state, right? Because it's not really a church and state question, because this is Walmart is a public company, but it's somewhere in their policies and procedures, this has to be okay, or else the guy would get fired, right? So I'm not talking about the intersection of church and state here. I'm talking about all of those poor people sitting around this white guy. He could have been a black guy for all that matter. It's the same critique, right? But it just harkens back to slavery. But anyway, all of these poor people who are getting their Monday morning motivation sermon to, not focus on what you can get from Walmart. Don't focus on what you can get from your stocks and bonds, focus only on Jesus on aisle 3, and I'm like, the reality of it is I know how much Walmart pays their people. Their clerks, the people who stock the aisles, they pay them just enough for them to not be able to survive. And what they do is they teach them to, okay, this is how much you make, and this is where you can go get welfare. This is where you can go get food stamps. This is where you can go get this type of subsidy, and this is housing assistance. So Walmart pays these people effectively sharecropping wages. Just enough wage to say that you're working, but you're turning around. They probably spend all of their check in Walmart. It come Christmas time, they spend all their money in Walmart and birthday time, right? So here essentially are a bunch of sharecroppers who work their butts off. They probably work 50 and 60 hours a week. So I'm not knocking them. What I'm saying is I'm knocking this imagery. I'm knocking this narrative that this man is motivating them to not pay attention to Walmart. Don't pay attention to the stocks that you probably don't have enough. You don't have a significant share in, if you have any share in. Don't pay attention to all that. Just say, praise the Lord, and let's get our day going. And it does a hell of a job, man. I'm telling you, there's nothing more motivating than when you hear somebody say, praise the Lord and hallelujah and all that stuff. But if you allow that to be a distraction from the reality of your situations around you, then you are doing a disservice not only to you, but you're doing a disservice to your faith, right? You're doing a disservice to everyone. You are perpetuating. You're helping to maintain the system of oppression. Those people in that aisle that I know probably don't make more than $10 an hour, if that, right? They should be getting motivated around demanding a higher wage from Walmart. But I guarantee you that they're not going to see. You can organize, you can have a meeting before work as long as it's about religion. But you can't organize. I mean, I have to pull the stat up. Someone can look it up for me. But I don't believe that Walmart is yet allowing their workers to unionize. So you can get together and say hallelujah, but you can't get together and say, can I get $15 an hour? That is the framework. $8.50 an hour after 5 years in Columbus. My producer just sent to me. $8.50 an hour. After 5 years of working in Columbus, Mississippi. And this is how they get away with it, by getting everyone in a circle and saying, come on, hallelujah. Jesus this and Jesus that. I love Jesus probably more than any of them. But when you use religion to manipulate people and to make people apathetic and to make them drunk with the opium of the masses, if I can steal that from whoever said it, right? Then you are keeping them from getting and moving into action. They can't unionize, but they can have church service before work. And this is why it's so tough for, that's why so many people have problems with religion. I understand why people have problems with religion when it's allowed to manipulate like this, and it's allowed to distract like this. It's allowed to distract them from the reality that in Columbus, Mississippi, you make $8.50 an hour after 5 years of work with Walmart. All right, let me move on. Okay, so they closed the Walmart after unionized and they were penalized. But this is from a listener. They closed a Walmart after it unionized. They were penalized, but that's nothing for Walmart. It distracts them. So, okay, I was going to move on. So no, you can't unionize with Walmart. One Walmart unionized, they closed it and shut it down, and they got a penalty from the federal government. But what's a penalty? What's a $10 million penalty? What's a $50 million penalty when you're bringing in billions of dollars every quarter, right? So yeah, you can get together and have church service, but you can't get together and unionize. And that's how they distract people. You know, people are going to go back to work and say, "Oh, I love Jimmy." But let's just imagine this guy's name is Jimmy. I love Jimmy because he really brings the word, and we have such a good time at Walmart. I mean, girl, we had church service at Walmart, but you can't get enough money to live on at Walmart. That's my beef for the day. Let me go over here to Bill O'Reilly. So Bill O'Reilly is really in love with himself. Bill O'Reilly is really in love with himself. And this video that I'm playing is in context of the same conversation that I had with Black Lives Matter. He's addressing Black Lives Matter, and he's addressing how dangerous and how militant and how futile their efforts are because they won't line themselves up with a particular reporter. Listen to how full of himself Bill O'Reilly. We already knew that.
Their message means nothing if they do these Gestapo tactics. See, they lose all credibility. The group is never going to be taken seriously, and their message is going to fall upon ears only sympathetic to them. Now, the reporter in this country who has shed the most light on young black men being killed is who, Jamu? One reporter who has done the most on it on the national media. Who?
I don't know who you are referring to.
That would be me. All right, that would be me.
Well,
report after report
so thank
after
you
report.
For, thank you for that coverage.
I don't want to be thanked.
They want more action.
Okay.
They want more action from the police.
If they want more action,
from
they
the
should join with me and demand that the mayor and police chief of Chicago police the South Side in an effective way, which means flooding the zone with officers and stopping the madness. Yet those people will not do that because they're only interested in condemning white society.
Okay. All right. Let me pause it. Oh, actually, no. Because I got to get my Andrea Tentoris in there.
Now you say
they're interested in justice.
It's Andrea's turn.
You're right. If they want to enact change, like Jamu says, they would go exactly where the crime rates are the highest.
That's right.
And if you want to have credibility, you go into those cities like Chicago, like Baltimore, and you protest.
Was I over the top with my being the?
No, you
I am the guy.
You've been excellent on this issue. I know you have. But if you look at Chicago.
Let's pat ourselves on the back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the guy who talks about the violence in black communities the most. There's so much in that segment, and I only have 4 minutes. So let's see if I can nail this in 4 minutes. So Bill O'Reilly in this segment, first of all, he is so madly in love with himself. So madly in love with himself because he assumes that he is the leading voice on problems in the black community because he's never going to address, ladies and gentlemen, he's never going to address police brutality against black people. He's only going to address black on black crime, which is an epidemic, right? So is white on white crime. 85% of all white people are killed by white people. But if there was a systemic killing of white people at the hands of police officers, of unarmed white people at the hands of police officers, then Fox News would go up in a tizzy. Fox News believes that there's a war against Christmas. They believe that there's more of a war against Christian white men than they believe that there's racism or systemic racism in the United States of America. Bill O'Reilly now has said that if, the problem with Black Lives Matter is that no one's going to take them serious until they align themselves with someone like him and oppose black on black crime instead of talking about white on black crime or instead of talking about police brutality and things of that nature. So I couldn't help but go and dig up an old clip so I can help Bill O'Reilly understand why people don't want to align with him. And why people are addressing there are plenty of people in Chicago. Father Flager, I believe, is one of them. A National Action Network has been there. The Rainbow Coalition has been there. Plenty of organizations that are addressing black on black crime in Chicago every single week, every single day. But the media is never going to give that narrative because it's more convenient for them to be able to deflect from anybody complaining about police violence by saying, oh, but you're not talking about black on black crime. Well, actually, yes, we are. We can chew and walk at the same time. We could chew gum and walk at the same time. Right. But because they have a narrative that they need to perpetuate, they will never ever let go of that lie that no one is addressing black on black crime. But my question still is, who's addressing white on white crime? Because it's just as problematic. So, but he wants to know why black people, why Black Lives Matter won't fall in line with what he says. So let me play a small segment of this.
Stopping the madness. Yet those people will not do that because they're only interested in condemning white society. That's all.
Okay, so we're only interested in condemning white society. But Bill O'Reilly, shortly before that, said this, not shortly, but about 7 years ago.
Do you understand what the New York Times wants and the far left want? They want to break down the white Christian male power structure of which you're a part, and so am I.
So, Bill O'Reilly, if you are expecting people to line up with your concept of what should be done, and you are afraid of, but hang on, let me just play this one more time.
Times wants and the far left want, they want to break down the white Christian male power structure of which you're a part, and so am I.
So is anybody surprised that with Bill O'Reilly saying this, just kind of accidentally saying it, and I have it in my sound clip. I play it all the time because I want it to be a constant reminder. I want it to be a constant reminder that there is a power structure in the United States of America, and it has been such since the founding of America. And that is a power structure of white Christian men. And he's right in that clip with John McCain. We do want to bring down the power structure that is built for white Christian men. It doesn't mean that by bringing down that power structure that we're oppressing white Christian men. It's simply saying that we are bringing it into balance, into equilibrium, where white Christian men have the same privilege as black women, as black gay people, white gay people, that everyone involved as a Muslim. And so they interpret that as an attack on white Christian men. But here's the problem. You have so many people who believe that there is a problem in America. They see systemic oppression in one way or another, but as soon as it crosses one of those intersections that they live on, white, Christian, or male, then all of a sudden they're completely incapable of recognizing that there is a problem. They can see, okay, that there is Christian supremacy in America. And, there's plenty of non-religious people, agnostics and atheists who say there's a lot of Christian supremacy and we just need to bring it down. And the Christian power structure, we need to bring that down. But as soon as they cross over into the male structure, well, there's not really any misogyny. There's no patriarchy in America. They can see the Christian supremacy, but they can't see the patriarchal supremacy. And then they cross that other intersection. Well, there may be some misogyny in America. There is a patriarchal problem in America, but there's no racist problem in America. There's no white supremacy in America. There is white privilege, Christian privilege, male privilege in America, period. Don't take my word for it. Take Bill O'Reilly's word for it one last time.
America is run by white Christian men.
And if you want to bring down any of those, if you don't want America to be run by Christians and controlled and manipulated by Christians or any religion, and you want the separation of church and state to actually be the separation of church and state, then you cannot ignore the misogyny, the patriarchal supremacy in America. The fact that America is structured to support, has been historically, and it's embedded in the system to benefit men, of which that's one way I benefit. But then if you want to bring that down, you cannot ignore the white portion, the white supremacy in America. Every intersection of supremacy and privilege has to be addressed, but it is so effective. Fox News and all of these conservative outlets, they are so effective at making people ignore the bigger problem by having them focus on that thing that they still suffer from. They still suffer from insecurities in. They don't want to admit, they don't want to swallow their pride and ever admit that there is a male power structure in America, that there is a Christian power structure in America, that there is a white power structure in America that has been baked into the system since the founding of America. And so long as they can keep us distracted from addressing it, then we'll always be scattered and we'll always be separate and we'll never be able to effectively attack all of those power structures, all of those privilege structures that are holding the entirety of America back. So long story short, I'm gonna get out of here. I got to work the overnight shift tonight, guys. So I got to get out of here. The long story short is this. If you believe that there is a problem with religion running too much of America, disproportionately so than it should, if you believe that there's a problem with the patriarchal system in America, and that male misogyny system needs to be brought into balance, where there's equality between men and women, real equality between men and women, then you cannot ignore the white supremacy power structure of which white people benefit from. I benefit from male privilege, and I benefit from Christian privilege. So if you cannot take the time to admit that you benefit from the white supremacist power structure in America, then you really are doing yourself a disservice, because you cannot effectively fight what Bill O'Reilly has been touting for the last 7 and 8 years, what Fox News has been promoting over the last 15 years of their existence, what conservatism has been trying to manipulate the entirety of American history. Throughout American history, they've been trying to control their wealth. They're trying to protect their wealth. They're trying to protect it by controlling their people and by keeping them upset at anyone who falls on that intersection. I'm going to quit right there because I got to go to bed. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show. I'll catch you next time, folks.
And until that moment comes, when we, the Americans, are able to accept the fact that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other, that I am not a ward of America. I am one of the people who built the country. Until this moment.
And we are brothers. It's not a question of Jews or Christians or Muslims. We're all in the same boat.
We need each other.
Love is a condition so powerful. It may be that which holds the stars in the firmament.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
I come to you today to say that we can build a newer and better nation. I say we can do so, that we must do so, and that we will do so.
You've tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at www.thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Hey, folks, if you're still here and you're still listening, I want you to go to facebook.com/The Benjamin Dixon Show. And I want you to click on the tab that says Contact Us. And I want you to fill out the information form there so you can register for the chance to win a copy of my book, God is Not a Republican, where I go in and I destroy the relationship between the evangelical Christian movement and Republicanism and deal with the proper separation of church and state. I write it from a Christian perspective because they got to hear it. You know what I mean? We got to separate it. But I'm trying to build our support base. I want to build our contacts so that we can reach you and just communicate with you and send you more goodies, t-shirts and things that we want to give away. So go to facebook.com/The Benjamin Dixon Show. Too much coffee. Facebook.com/The Benjamin Dixon Show. Fill out the Contact Us form, and you only have to click submit once. Facebook has some script in there that's not allowing you to get the satisfaction of submitting and going to another page. So you're going to think that it didn't submit, but it actually did. But if you want to submit multiple times, it doesn't matter. But I'm giving away a free copy every week. And starting next week, I'll give away a free copy, and then we'll start giving away some t-shirts and different things. Go to where else can you find me? At Twitter at the BPD Show. And subscribe if you're listening on Spreaker. I want you to go over to YouTube and subscribe. If you're listening on YouTube, I want you to go over to Spreaker and subscribe to the podcast and the radio show so that we can stay in touch with you and get you some more good stuff. And with that, I am going to shut down the studio and get ready for my overnight shift. Take care, folks. Oh, and if you, my producer yelled at me, if you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/the BPD Show, and you can do it that way. It's been real, folks. See you on Monday.